The studio lights of the View were blazing, the kind of bright that made everything feel sharper, more intense. The audience was already buzzing with anticipation, a low hum of chatter filling the air as cameras rolled into position. Blake Shelton sat comfortably in his chair at first, leaning back with his familiar relaxed posture, one arm draped casually over the side. He looked calm, even amused, flashing that easy smile he was known for. Across from him, the pain lists were settling in: Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Sunny Hostin, and Joy Behar, each with their cue cards and coffee mugs ready. It felt like a normal morning show segment, the kind millions of viewers watched while eating breakfast or scrolling through their phones. The conversation started light. Blake joked about life on his ranch, about how quiet it felt compared to the noise of tours and TV studios. The audience laughed when he teased himself about being too country for New York City traffic. Even Joy Behar smiled at first, tossing in a playful comment about his accent. For a moment, everything felt friendly, warm, almost cozy. Then the topic shifted. Joy leaned forward slightly, her expression changing from playful to serious. Her tone sharpened, just a little at first. She brought up a recent controversy that had been floating around social media, something Blake had commented on in a radio interview. It wasn't supposed to be explosive, at least not on paper, but the way she framed it made the room feel tighter, more tense. "So, Blake," Joy said, adjusting her glasses, "a lot of people felt your comments were dismissive. Do you understand why there's backlash?" Blake's smile didn't disappear, but it stiffened. His eyes narrowed just a fraction. He straightened in his chair, both hands now resting on his knees. The relaxed country star posture shifted into something more guarded. "I think people took what I said out of context," he replied calmly. "That happens a lot these days." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe people are just tired of celebrities pretending their words don't matter." A few audience members gasped softly. The air in the studio changed. You could feel it, the kind of silence that isn't quiet, but heavy. Blake let out a small laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Joy, I never said my words don't matter. I said people twist them. There's a difference." Sunny Hostin tried to soften the moment, leaning in with a gentler tone. "I think what Joy's asking is whether you've reflected on how it came across." Blake nodded. "Of course I have. But reflection doesn't mean I have to agree with every interpretation." Joy crossed her arms slightly, her body language closing off. "That sounds like a dodge." Now the tension was unmistakable. Whoopi shifted in her chair, sensing the direction the conversation was going. The audience was silent, eyes locked on the exchange like it was a live tennis match. Blake's voice grew firmer. "It's not a dodge. It's me being honest. I'm not going to apologize for something I didn't mean the way people are claiming." Joy leaned forward, her voice sharper now. "But that's the problem. Impact matters more than intent." The words hit the air like a spark. Blake inhaled slowly, visibly trying to keep his composure. His jaw tightened. He paused before speaking again, the kind of pause that signals someone choosing their words carefully. "I understand that," he said. "But there's also a point where people need to stop assuming the worst about others." Joy shook her head. "That's easy to say when you're not the one affected." Now the audience murmured. You could hear whispers, soft reactions, a ripple of tension spreading through the seats. Blake's calm facade cracked just a little. His voice rose, not shouting, but stronger, more emotional. "You don't get to tell me what I understand and what I don't, Joy." The studio went dead silent. Even the cameras seemed to freeze in place, capturing every expression. Whoopi opened her mouth like she was about to step in, then stopped, sensing the moment was too raw. Joy's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed again. "Excuse me. I absolutely get to question you when you're sitting here on this show." Blake shook his head. "Questioning is one thing. Talking down to me is another." The friendly interview had turned into a confrontation, and everyone in the room could feel it. Sarah Haynes glanced nervously at the producers off-camera. The producers were standing just behind the cameras now, their faces tight, alert. Joy's voice rose another notch. "No one is talking down to you. You just don't like being challenged." That did it. Blake leaned forward in his chair, both hands gripping the armrests. His voice was steady, but it carried weight. "I don't mind being challenged. I mind being disrespected." The audience gasped audibly this time. For a split second, it felt like time slowed. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Blake stood up before she could speak. The movement was sudden, decisive. His chair scraped loudly against the studio floor, the sound echoing through the room. Everyone froze. "Blake," Whoopi started, raising her hand. But Blake didn't sit back down. He looked at the panel, his eyes calm but intense. "I came here for a conversation, not a character attack." Joy stood up too, halfway, as if reacting on instinct. "Oh, please. Don't play the victim." Blake shook his head slowly. "I'm not playing anything. I'm done." The audience was in shock. Some people covered their mouths. Others leaned forward, phones already being raised discreetly. Blake turned toward the side of the stage, toward the exit used by guests. A producer rushed forward, whispering something urgently, trying to calm him, trying to pull him aside. He paused for just a second, glancing back at the table. His eyes met Joy's. There was no anger on his face now, just disappointment. "This isn't what a conversation looks like," he said quietly. Then he walked. The cameras followed him as he moved off set, his boots hitting the floor with slow, heavy steps. The studio was filled with stunned silence, broken only by the distant murmur of crew members and the faint echo of his footsteps disappearing down the hallway. On stage, the hosts sat frozen. Joy stared at the empty space where Blake's chair had been, her face flushed. Whoopi exhaled slowly, rubbing her temple. Sunny looked down at her notes, not knowing where to look. Sarah's eyes were wide, her mouth slightly open. The audience didn't clap. They didn't speak. They just sat there, stunned, realizing they had just witnessed something that wasn't planned, wasn't scripted, and definitely wasn't normal morning TV. And backstage, as Blake Shelton disappeared behind the studio doors, the quiet felt louder than any argument ever could. Backstage, the energy was nothing like the polished calm of the studio. The hallway outside the view set felt tight and chaotic, filled with hurried footsteps, hushed voices, and the sharp buzz of walkie-talkies. Crew members moved quickly, whispering into headsets, glancing toward the door Blake Shelton had just walked through as if he were the center of a storm they didn't know how to contain. The heavy studio door swung shut behind him, cutting off the lights and cameras, but not the tension. Blake stood still for a moment, one hand pressed against the wall, breathing slowly. His chest rose and fell as he tried to steady himself. He wasn't shaking with anger, he was controlled, but the adrenaline was obvious. A producer rushed up, her face pale, voice low and urgent. "Blake, please, let's talk for a second," she said gently. "We can fix this. We can bring you back out." He shook his head. "No, I'm not doing that." Another producer joined them, holding a tablet, eyes darting nervously. "This is going to blow up online. We can smooth it over on air, just a quick clarification." Blake looked at him, calm but firm. "I'm not interested in a TV cleanup. I'm interested in respect." There was a long silence. The producers exchanged glances, realizing he wasn't bluffing. This wasn't a dramatic pause for cameras. This was a decision. On set, the show had gone into damage control mode. Whoopi leaned toward the camera, her voice steady but serious, trying to regain control of the broadcast. "All right, everyone," she said, forcing a calm tone. "We are going to take a quick break." The audience, still stunned, clapped weakly as the show cut to commercial. The lights dimmed slightly, and the hosts leaned into each other in hushed conversation. Joy sat back in her chair, arms crossed tightly. Her face was red, her jaw clenched. "He overreacted," she muttered. Sunny looked at her carefully. "Joy, it got personal." Joy shot her a look. So did his comments. Whoopi exhaled deeply. "This isn't the place for this kind of blow-up. Not like that." Sarah Haynes didn't say anything. She just stared at the floor, clearly processing what had just happened. Back in the hallway, Blake picked up his phone. Messages were already flooding in, texts from his team, his manager, friends, people who had seen the moment live or were hearing about it through production whispers. Clips were already being uploaded. Hashtags were forming. The internet was waking up. A staff member approached cautiously. "Your car is ready whenever you are, Mr. Shelton." Blake nodded. "Thanks." As he walked toward the exit, the atmosphere changed. Some crew members looked away awkwardly. Others gave him quiet nods of respect. No one spoke loudly. Everyone understood they had just been part of a moment that would be replayed, dissected, and debated for days. Outside, the New York air felt colder, sharper. The city noise hit him all at once. Car horns, distant sirens, the hum of traffic. He took a deep breath, the kind you take when you're trying to reset your nervous system. His SUV door opened, and he climbed in, closing it behind him with a solid, final thud. Inside the car, he leaned back in the seat, staring out the window as the building pulled away. For the first time since the argument, his expression softened, not into anger, but into something more tired, more reflective. Meanwhile, back inside the studio, the commercial break felt endless. Producers rushed around the set, whispering instructions, coordinating responses. A publicist spoke urgently into a phone. Someone else was already drafting a statement. When the show returned from break, the mood was completely different. The bright, cheerful energy that usually defined the view was gone. It felt heavier, more serious. Whoopi addressed the audience directly. We want to acknowledge what just happened. Sometimes conversations get heated, and emotions run high. That's live television. Her words were careful, controlled, designed to calm without taking sides. Joy shifted in her seat, clearly holding back. Her expression was defensive, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Sunny added, "We believe in open dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable." The segment moved on, but no one was really listening. Viewers at home were already replaying the clip. Social media was exploding. Some people praised Blake for standing his ground. Others criticized him for walking off. Some defended Joy. Others accused her of pushing too far. It became a digital war zone. Clips, edits, reaction videos, slow-motion replays, think pieces, hashtags, arguments in comment sections that spiraled out of control. Hashtag Blake Shelton. Hashtag The View. Hashtag Joy Behar. Hashtag Live TV Drama. The moment took on a life of its own. By the time Blake arrived back at his hotel, his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. His manager finally got through. "Man, this is everywhere," his manager said. "But listen, don't panic. This isn't bad for your image. People are split, but a lot of folks are on your side." Blake sighed. "I didn't walk out for image. I walked out because I wasn't going to sit there and be disrespected on national TV." "I know," his manager replied. "And that's exactly what people are seeing." Later that evening, Blake posted a short message online. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple. "I believe in conversation. I don't believe in being talked down to. Respect goes both ways." That was it. No long explanation. No blame. No attacks. The post went viral within minutes. On the other side, Joy Behar addressed the situation in her own way during a later interview. She defended her position, saying she was doing her job, asking tough questions, challenging public figures. But even she admitted, carefully, that things had escalated faster than expected. "It was live television," she said. "Sometimes things go too far." But the public didn't see it as just TV. They saw a moment of real emotion, real tension, and real conflict.